All right. Hello and welcome. I hope everyone is doing great. And I bet I just showed that entire thing with zero audio working. Is that correct?
I think so. I think that's so.
Yeah.
Because I checked it on YouTube and I didn't hear it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it would not be one of my streams without audio issues. I mean,
And I worked so hard on that.
you did, and I I ruined it. Okay, hold on. We're gonna. Why am I so? Am I coming in too low? Um,
You sound okay to me.
they're saying Josh Tree is saying I'm soft. Do you mean microphone wise, or do you mean um, like, oh, it's because this guy is a bit low there on your end? There you go. Well, guys, it has been a hot minute since I streamed, and that's why we are going to have so many fun difficulties. But stick around. One thing I enjoyed when I did this with John is as time went on, we got into a good rhythm and things actually improved. So it's probably going to be a little rough, but we'll get better.
Are you certain about that getting better
No,
pretty
no, but if I say it
soon?
with
Oh,
confidence, people might believe me.
okay.
So tell you what, I'm going to try this again. Maybe if I can remember how to do something real quick. There we go. So I am going to show the video again, and hopefully y'all tell me if it's actually working. So here we go.
There, at the dawn of the third age of Matthew kind, it began in the Earth year 2024 with the founding of the Life with Matthew Babylon streams, located deep in YouTube space. It was a port of call for YouTube refugees, runners, enthusiasts, envoys, and viewers from 100 locations. Could be a dangerous place. But we accepted the risk because the Babylon streams were our last, best hope for Monday evening entertainment. The Babylon videos were a dream given form. A dream of a YouTube without boring Monday night content, where viewers from different places could watch side by side in mutual enjoyment. The Life with Matthew's Babylon videos was the last of Matthew's Babylon streams. This is its story.
Okay, I think it actually worked that time. Jeff,
I hope
thank you
so.
so much for putting that together.
You're welcome. And I think you'll see where that plays in a little bit here.
Okay, awesome. Well, guys, welcome. Hello and welcome. Yes, it's been a long time. Thank you, John DeMarco. He was the first one here. Been waiting most of the day in the chat, from what I can tell. Uh, Thanks for being here, John DeMarco. Taylor Swift greater than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU. That is a name right there, man. Wow. I'm not sure if I can disagree with the current state that Disney's in right now, but I wouldn't describe myself. This is probably going to lose like half my subscribers. I'm not a Swiftie. Sorry.
Neither am I, Matthew. So maybe you've lost three quarters now. I don't know.
Yeah. So okay. So Taylor Swift's boyfriend was in the Super Bowl, right?
Yes,
Their team won last night.
they did win. Yes.
Okay. Congratulations to her boyfriend. What team was that? Was that Kansas City or was that the 49ers?
Kansas City Chiefs.
All right. It's amazing I even know who's in the Super Bowl. I'm not a big sports guy.
You're going about one for two right now.
Am I? What did I get wrong?
Well, you had your audio issue earlier.
Oh, true, true. Truck reviewer is saying hi. Is it 22:58 yet? Okay, so almost. I actually looked it up. I think it was the end of 20. No, it was like March of 2022 when we were just
Yes.
wrapping up our uh, our Sequest streams with me and John DeMarco, and I said, "Oh yeah, I really hope that soon I can do these live streams with Jeff." And apparently, soon meant 2 years.
Well, soon's a relative term, Matthew.
Yeah, Yeah, very very relative. But we got here. It's been a crazy time. One of these days I'll do an actual live stream. We'll play some games. I got a lot of fun stuff I want to do. Just haven't had time to do it. I've had work stuff going on. Left. I say left the company, but I'm an independent contractor. So the main company I've had for like 5 6 years, they bought out another company that had an in-house programming department, so they didn't need me anymore. So that wrapped up my time with them, and then I've been a youth leader at my church, and that's taken up a lot of time in a good way. But I need to hang out with you guys, and we can chat again because it's a lot of fun to do these streams.
And
And
I'm hearing that Amy's excited that you're doing this.
she is like for a long time I was kind of like, oh, Amy's probably not gonna be super thrilled. Amy's my wife for anyone who's new here, and I'm like, she's not gonna be super thrilled that I'm doing these streams again, even though they're like one night a week. She enjoys uh, not having them. And so I brought it up with her in passing. She's like, oh, you should totally do it. That'd be a lot of fun. I'm like, oh, I don't have an excuse anymore to not do it. So I need to get on the ball here.
And here we are.
And here we are. So it actually it actually looks good so far. Here's the way these streams work. I have put a link to the watch channel up there somewhere up there. Oh, I don't have my monitor mirrored anymore. That's gonna drive me nuts. So up there, I have the link. You can click there, and
Up
during this live
YouTube.
stream only to SciTube, you can join us in our watch party room, and you can watch my copy right now. After this stream, it's gone. This is not a way for you to get Babylon 5 illegally. This is just we hang out, we watch it, and once the watch party's over, I take it down. If you don't want to do it that way, you can use your own DVDs or Blu-rays. They have a remastered version for sale on Amazon. Go get them. Or if you already have Amazon Prime, you can watch your copy live on Amazon Prime while we watch this stream. Those are the three ways you can do it. If you don't have time to do any of that, like you're on your phone, you can't pull up a second window or something, I'm going to, in a minute, pull up another one of these windows, which will be right below Jeff and me, and it's just going to be once every 5 to 7 seconds. I have a program that grabs a clip, and it's going to show that still image. So you won't hear the audio on this stream, and if you do hear audio, please let me know, because that will get me in trouble with Warner Brothers quick. Uh,
Indeed.
yeah, so no audio on the stream, just some clips, and then we'll talk about what's going on as things are going on. And then just so you know, I have never watched Babylon 5 before in my life. One of my best friends, a guy named Daniel, he loves Babylon 5. And he tried to get me to watch it in college, but I never got around to it. And I never got around to it. It's been a long time since college. You would have thought it would make my list somewhere, but it didn't. And so Jeff is a Babylon 5 fan, and I did this with John with Sequest, and I said, let's do it again. And here we are. We're gonna see, do I think Babylon 5 lives up to the hype? We'll find out. And yes, please, no spoilers. Thank you, old media guy. No spoilers, because I am trying to go into this completely blind. I say I make these clips, but I wrote a piece of software. I give it a video file. It automatically compiles it all for me. I've literally not seen a second of Babylon 5 before, and I don't watch these ahead of time. I'm only going to watch them as we watch it here every Monday night. So no cheating. I don't get to watch ahead. I have to watch it as if we're in the past. A crazy time in the past, where you had to wait 1 week, and every week at exactly the same time, you tune into your favorite station and you'd watch that show. And so I'm looking forward to it.
I was doing
Thomas.
some I was doing some calculations earlier. We're going to go at least into 2026 to get through the
Ooh,
series.
very nice. Yeah, I like the way you modify that with at least. Uh,
Well, I know you, Matthew.
exactly. I don't try to be flaky. I just have dry skin, and so it naturally flakes, and it comes out of my personality too. Things happen. We'll have holidays, and we'll have work emergencies and life emergencies, but as quickly as reasonable, we'll get through. I say get through this like it's a chore. We're gonna watch this. We're gonna enjoy it. So
Indeed.
what I do know about Babylon 5, what I know is that this show came out somewhat concurrently with Deep Space Nine, and there was some alleged drama going on because originally they came to Paramount with this idea, and Paramount didn't want it. But then, like, just a little bit later, all of a sudden, here's this space station, and there's all these different aliens coming, and they're doing the stuff on the space station, and oh, that's totally our idea. That's what I've heard. But my also understanding is that that is more of a fan pushed narrative, as opposed to like the actual creators are like, this is a tit for tat remake of Babylon 5 sort of thing, or like,
There are some remarkable similarities between the two shows, as you'll probably notice as we go along.
I hope so. Now,
And the story goes that the execs at Paramount were whispering into uh, the creators of Star Trek, and just putting little bits of Babylon 5 into Deep Space Nine. So that's how the story goes.
we'll see.
We shall see. And Thomas predicts that we'll end probably in 2030.
We might. We'll see. And it's great to see all you guys again. Geoff Street, great to see you. Maleficent Sky, Mr. Lindell's Groovy Movies. I miss getting to hang out with y'all for the virtual pub, and we'd hang out, we'd talk just the sci-fi geek stuff of the day. Those were a lot of fun streams. But I'll also be honest, probably not going to bring virtual pub up again, guys. There's just not any sci-fi stuff that's new that I want to talk about anymore, to be perfectly honest.
I get that.
Yeah, the cinema landscape of today is just so blah. Like it's dark, and not just in tones of like the cinematography, because apparently we're really green friendly in California now, and you can't have lights on at all on your studio productions. Like every single show, it's like they're like, hey, you know what? We can't turn on the lights today. We got to save the Earth, and so all these shows are shot in the dark for some reason. But they're also dark nihilistically. Everyone says everything sucks. Like they remade the Lego Movie, and like their hit song was literally "Everything's Not Awesome." I'm like, this is just not. These aren't the movies for me. I don't go to the movies to be depressed, you know. I don't want to talk about unbeatable girl bosses. You know, I actually don't care about unbeatable girl bosses if they were written well, because Superman is an unbeatable boy boss, but he's written such that you actually like they never do the movie where it's like, oh yeah, Superman, nothing touches him the whole time, and he starts off amazing and he ends amazing and nothing touches him. It's always focusing on that aspect of his humanity where he is the weakest, and the way the villain is attacking him at that weak point.
Yes, he has flaws.
Yeah. So I don't mind the fact that there is a unbeatable girl boss. What I mind is the fact that she has no story to go with her. So yeah, yeah. One last housekeeping
I do
thing.
want to.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I want to point out that Melphis Sky points out that Babylon 5 is on Tubi.
Oh, is
Tubi
it?
has ads, but it is on Tubi, so you can watch it for free.
Okay, I will have to look that up and add it to my descriptions below, because one of the great things when we did Sequest, a couple of my okay, there we go. My screen froze for a second there. I'm like, great. I've already
Don't do
broken
that
it.
to me, Matthew.
So how am I breaking? It's something I'm doing. I'm gonna stop doing stuff. I'm gonna stop doing stuff to Jeff. Sequest got claimed a couple times. I think it was CBS Viacom is the owner of Sequest, or who's? Don't hold me to that.
I thought it was NBC. Don't they own it?
I think that's right.
It's on Peacock.
Yes. So NBC did claim a couple of my streams with John, but then they immediately released them. And I think one of the reasons they immediately released it is because we kept saying, go watch it legally, go watch it legally, go watch it legally. So the more you guys can go watch this legally, the longer we're going to be able to do these streams. Because if every single time I do this stream it gets claimed, I'm not going to be able to do this. It's not that I get money from these streams. I'm not monetized or anything like that. I just don't want my channel being taken down with a bunch of strikes because, whoever owns Babylon 5 gets vindictive on me, That's just not
It's
something I'm looking
Warner
forward
Brothers.
to right now. What's that?
Warner Brothers owns Babylon 5.
Warner Brothers. Okay. Okay, so one last housekeeping type thing, and then we're going to get the stream started. If you enjoy video game sort of stuff, not necessarily the playing of the video games, but review of video game tech, retro stuff like that. If you know Gary at Rock Solid Productions, and I'm going to drop his link in the chat there. Gary was unexpectedly fired on Friday. He's been at a new job. He just released a video about this, so it's not like I'm saying anything he hasn't shared publicly. But on Friday, he was let go. He'd started at this job 6 months ago, having just left his previous job of like a long time. And just, we're sorry, your position is not here anymore. And there's no hard feelings. His boss wasn't a jerk about it, but he is all of a sudden extremely unemployed. So if you like retro video game stuff, please go check him out. The link's there in the chat. Think about becoming one of his Patreons or YouTube subscribers. Like if all of his current subscribers just signed up for like the $1 tier, he could make this his full-time job. And even if only a handful of us, like a 50% or a 30% signed up, it would at least be enough to give him this little bit of income he needs while he's trying to get a job. So that is that's my last little housekeeping thing, and we're going to get started with the stream. So by all means, please join us over on SciTube if you want to watch it live with us, or go to Tubi if you have a Tubi account, or go to Amazon Prime if you have Amazon Prime, and we'll be able to watch this. Now, most of them, I have the remastered ones, I'm pretty sure. I think that's the ones I got. We'll find out.
I think that's all it's available on Amazon right now. On Prime is the remaster.
I think so. Watch Me have somehow done things wrong. But I'm pretty sure I got the remastered, except for tonight. Tonight, I didn't realize I need to get a pilot. I thought season 1, episode 1 was the pilot. It's not.
No, it isn't. And, it's confusing because on the Blu-ray release, it was just released back in December, they've got all the discs in the box, and the last disc, the very last disc, is the pilot episode. It's not the first one.
Now, does it have the rest of the specials?
No, it does not have the rest of the TV movies.
All right, then. All right.
I do have them on DVD, but...
Okay. So let me know when those come up, and if they fit in naturally, we're going to break the season progression to watch the special.
Okay.
All right. All right, so everyone...
Sounds good.
Head over to the screen room. We're going to hopefully do this right. If I can...
Fingers crossed.
All right, so I'm going to hit play on the clips, and then I'm going to hit play on SciTube, and good luck, everyone. Here we go. And please let me know if if you hear this audio.
I can hear it.
But can you hear it on the stream?
No, I hear it on SciTube.
Okay. That's a little weird. Sorry about that. No audio. Thank you, LDG. Glad to see you. And okay, thanks, Thomas. And Tokyo Gaijin, so glad you're here. I might end up being pretty quiet because I'm pretty interested in what they're saying.
What you got here was the original pilot. This is not the re-edited pilot that they did in '98.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought I got. I got this real quick. I sent Jeff the screenshot for the thumbnail, and he's like, "Oh, are we not doing the pilot?" And like I thought I did, so I got this quick, and I figured this wasn't going to be the remastered one.
No, it isn't.
Okay, so they're introducing us
It's
to.
essentially the same story.
Okay, so what they're saying in this intro, Babylon 5, last best hope for peace in the universe.
In that region of space, anyway.
And my apologies to everyone for undoubtedly how wrong I'm going to get names. I'm going to do my best, but I am notoriously bad at names. I'm not always trying to be disrespectful, though there were a few times with the Sequest ones where I was very much trying to be disrespectful. Like the Deanna Troy character.
Wasn't it Belana Troy, you called her?
Yes, Belana Troy. Because I even messed up my insult.
Yeah, they redid this pilot in '98 when the series went to TNT. They redid the effects, they re-edited scenes, put stuff back in, took a few things out.
Okay. I'll have to try and find the remastered one later on, but I was just thankful I could get this one last second-ish. I saw that lady's gloves and I thought it was a batlet for a minute. I'm like, whoa, they really did steal a lot from. See, now I'm being too sensitive looking for similarities. And I'm going to miss the obvious one. We all know it.
Well, we know you, Matthew. That's what you do.
Okay, I do remember hearing the name Sinclair. So I guess I'm gonna have like random memory bursts of I get this icon from culture, or I get this reference just because I grew up with this show. So they're really not doing much so far for anyone listening without this audio. We're getting to know the universe, the people coming in, who's going to be important.
Well, the thing about this series is it's like a book. It was planned out for 5 seasons, and all the characters were arced out. JMS, the creator of the show, he knew where everybody was going to be at the end of the series, and had it all planned out. And there were escape clauses if an actor had to leave or something like that. But so there's a lot of establishment, especially in this first season of the show. So it builds slowly, but once it gets rocking, it goes fast.
So we got a Keiko lady, Keiko, Keiko lady,
Keiko,
and Bortus.
That's Andreas Kasoulas. He was on Star Trek.
Oh, who did he play?
He played Admiral, the Romulan Admiral. I can't think of his name now. No,
it's a fake guy
from TNG. TNG.
Oh, okay.
Tomalak. Thank you, Tokyo.
I'm surprised he beat John to it.
Tokyo knows his stuff. Now, this is one of the scenes that they heavily edited in the remaster for this episode because there were a lot of complaints about the alien sector and how the aliens looked. It looked like a bunch of puppets. So they took a lot of this out.
So I actually don't have a problem with the puppet look with aliens. Who was it? Farscape. Farscape worked with Jim Henson, so it definitely had a lot of puppet looks to it.
It did, but they did it really well.
Oh yeah, it was Jim Henson. He did it great. And yes, Thomas, I'm already affecting Jeff's mind.
Yeah, I might have a hole forming in my mind, Thomas.
Now, was that area supposed to be a zoo type menagerie or just the special environments different species needed?
That's what it is. They have different atmospheres that they're required to breathe. So called the alien sector. That's where the aliens on the station live that need the different environments.
Okay. Now he was just mentioning that he's describing this like the UN on Earth before that was dissolved. Is is she an Earther? And
She
he's
is
not?
from Earth. She is a telepath. And the telepaths, they become a big part of the show as time goes on. In fact, we get a well-known actor that we all know from Star Trek playing one of the telepaths in the show. He shows up about episode 5, I think.
Hmm. I guess I might be asking. I might ask questions that are kind of spoilerish. You don't feel like you need to answer my every question, but they're doing
Okay.
a good job setting up things for you to pick up just by how they're presenting it. Like the way the the captain there, name with the S, not Saval.
Sinclair.
Sinclair, yes. The way Sinclair mentioned
Jeffrey Sinclair,
oh, Jeff. Ooh,
if that
Jeffrey.
helps. Yes.
But
Spelled
the
the
way he
same
was
way I
talking about
spell it.
like the UN on Earth, the way the UN used to be on Earth, it clued me in. Like, okay, yes, one, we've moved past the UN, but two, just that these two people are operating from a different frame of reference, even though they look identical. So one is from an Earth area, and one is from like maybe a colony. So it's just establishing how big things are without being like, whoa, we span 700 sectors and it would take 5 days to transverse just one of a small area.
Well, you're picking up on things here, Matthew. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Thank you. I do pay attention every squirrel.
Now, did you notice what was happening outside the station there?
I thought the ship was docking appropriately, was it not?
It was not.
Ooh. Okay, I think I had this still showing there. The inside looked down the center uh, of Babylon 5. That image, it's kind of one of those common sci-fi tropes maybe, but specifically there was a famous sci-fi writer who the whale probe from Star Trek 4 was based on it. And he had the same sort of design where it was a giant empty cylinder and the entirety of the world inside of it was on the edges of the cylinder.
Kind of that idea because they're using rotation for gravity.
Yeah. I wish I could remember the name of the book or the author. I want to say it was like Arthur C. Clarke, but it probably definitely wasn't. And that's just me doing my name thing.
John says it was called an O'Neill cylinder. I think he's right on that.
Hmm. And hey, Taylor Swift greater than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU. There's got to be a shorter way to say your name without just saying like Taylor Swift, because I'm not just going to call you Taylor Swift. Tokyo, I think it's an even older thing than from the Mobile Suit Gundam, but yes, I do remember that. Okay, a little espionage trying to go on here. Maybe a little just diplomacy. We
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Okay, nice. So I'm getting clued into the fact that it's not just Babylon 5 is the last hope for this sector. It's because there's been a war somewhat recently.
Yes, about 10 years before the station went operational.
I I get the vibe they're going for here. This is a post World War II kind of environment. We got a Cold War situation maybe. A lot of different powers going on. We're trying to coalesce, find peace.
Yeah, I think you're kind of on the right track there.
I, I do appreciate. Okay, I see a little similarity here between another station that was near a jump point or wormhole.
Wormhole, jump, they call these jump gates.
I also couldn't help but notice, and I don't think this one was intentional per se, but I couldn't help but notice that ship had a striking resemblance to the solar cell ship that Cisco flew.
Maybe a little bit. I think just in appearance.
Hey, Mikey, how you doing? Who is which one is William Mummy?
He does not appear for several more episodes yet.
Okay, I can't look at this guy without seeing the fawns for the record.
Which one? Sinclair?
I think it is just the hairstyle and the chin.
I never picked up on that, and I do see it now. I can't unsee it.
so, so one thing Amy and I discovered.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. One thing Amy and I discovered about myself recently is that I am face blind. Like, not completely face blind, but the markers that I use to be able to recognize people are like not what normal people use. So like it's if someone has this one specific trait, that's what I lock onto. I'm like, oh, these two people look identical, and everyone's like, no, they don't at all. But like the fact the eyebrows in the right spot or something, I don't get it. But but that's why I have no ability to be like, oh yes, I totally recognize these two people. And everyone, please notice how good of a job Jeff has done with that view screen. He created these borders for this, for the stream.
I appreciate pointing that out, Matthew. Thank you.
And only these guys saying I'm going to have to watch the 1998 remix privately after this. There's far more going on than 99% of the shows from 93. I believe it. Like if someone takes the time to plan out a full 5 seasons, they typically do a good job of really filling in the details of the universe. Okay, so this is the Vorlon, right? The one who just came
No,
in?
that's he is Jakar, a Narn. He's of the Narn regime.
Okay. And he's being extremely sus right now because he was resisting the searching of his ship earlier, and now he's just
Yes.
all smiles and oh, of course you can search our ship, and oh, please take your time, do the ambassador's ship first, we'll wait pleasantly, and then he literally skips off the screen.
That's quite a change in character, isn't it?
And I do recognize, I don't know his name obviously. I could have heard his name 100
This
times, I wouldn't know it, but
this is Londo Malari.
Londo.
He's the Centauri ambassador.
I I have seen his face just everywhere. And he strikes me as the Quark of this universe.
In a way, He seems like a buffoon, doesn't he?
He does. And I like the aesthetics they're doing with like this 1920s flapper kind of vibe. But at the same time, like you have the military people, the flappers. Like here you got someone who has this 70s vibe going for him. Like it's an interesting mix of culture that they're doing just by using Earth dress from different decades. Sorry, I like that line. Londo, give me your support, your good cheer, and Sinclair, my wallet. Or not Sinclair, he's security officer.
That's Garibaldi, Michael Garibaldi.
Okay, Garibaldi.
He's the chief of security.
Poor Londo, he's not getting his money today. And Mitchell Lundell is saying that all these characters are diplomats. Think more in political terms when viewing this show.
It is heavily a political show, that's for sure. Josh Street asked if I like the makeup for Jakar in the pilot or how he looks later when the series goes on. I actually prefer how they redid it later in the series. Actually, very first episode. There's 11 months between this pilot episode and episode 1 of season 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
I honestly kind of
They
enjoyed the way we used to do that, where you'd throw out a pilot, maybe it would hit, maybe it wouldn't, but then you'd get, a year later, 26 episodes. It gave you a lot more diversity in the shows on TV than what we get now. And okay, that's dirt. That's dirty. That's I would be so annoyed. I'm trying to do business with someone, and there's a telepath calling me out on my own lies. Like you gotta let me do a little business here.
Well, she is a registered telepath, and both parties have to agree for her presence. So it's not like he doesn't know she's going to be there or he didn't agree to it.
Now, was she more of a? I'm assuming she was with the first guy, but is more of a neutral representative, or is
I
she?
believe how it works is one of them hires her,
Hmm.
but both parties have to agree that she's there.
And why wouldn't you agree? By not agreeing, you're advertising the fact that you have something to hide.
That's true.
Oh, they got a little cone of silence. Works a little bit better than it did for Get Smart, though. Hey, James Fry, how you doing tonight? Yeah. Okay. So he said talking about how Earth has had uh, telepaths for 6 generations, and he's lamenting that his species doesn't have any telepaths, but maybe you can help correct that. And she gave quite the look because I too would assume that he's talking about a natural introduction into the genetic gene pool.
Well, if you listen closely,
But he's asking to buy her genetic makeup. Is what she's saying right now. It is what he's suggesting. Because he's talked to his maid, and she's supportive of this.
That was actually a line that was dropped in the re-edit.
Really? Okay, I see why that line was cut. He just asked if she'd prefer to be conscious or unconscious during the mating. I can see why that line didn't age well.
Oh, we're only talking 5 years difference. I don't think that line was actually cut. Somebody correct me on that if I'm wrong.
But the line that was cut was, I talked to my mate and she's okay with it?
Yeah, because we never see a mate for him.
Oh. And Old Media Guy's confirming what you're saying, that the unconscious line was not cut.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so the Valorian ship is cleared for docking now. We still have that mysterious spider ship on the hull somewhere.
Right.
I was saying this earlier, and then we had the jump point wormhole, but I like the way they're taking more of a hard sci-fi approach to their universe as opposed to a very soft sci-fi, almost sci-fantasy.
It's a little harder than Star Trek is on its sci-fi.
But like
I wouldn't say much harder.
What's that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a whole lot more, but some.
Yeah. I mean, things like we don't have true faster than light travel, or at least that's what they're showing so far. But they have the jump points that they've established. We don't have anti or artificial gravity. We use the natural rotation of the station. This is another one of those images I've seen, but I didn't realize that he had like moving tubes on his neck. You don't really get that in a still image.
Almost everything looks better when it's moving.
That's true.
So. I'm kind of glad you got this version because I haven't seen this version maybe in 20 years.
Nice. I honestly enjoy having the original pilot and a remade pilot. Like, there's a lot of shows that did that, not because they did a remaster, but just like Seinfeld. Seinfeld had an original pilot versus an aired pilot, and it's fun to see the things they changed between the two of them.
Yes, Thomas, I'm 953.
Cross both his hearts. And somehow this stoic, strong, spooky Valorian is down.
Yes, the Vorlon is down.
Ooh. So we got a Mandalorian situation here. You can't take off the Vorlon's suit. They'd rather the ambassador die than have the suit removed. Because it's a security thing, they're saying. Yeah, the Valorian, because they're like a DeLorean, I assume. They time travel, Thomas. The suit's going to open up and he's going to go, "Great Scott!" The Vorlon, excuse me, the Vorlon.
Vorlon.
Vorlon. I'm sure I'll get it by 2026. We're saying.
At least.
Okay, so they're talking about how no one's ever seen a Vorlon except legend says one person has, and of course it probably didn't go well for that person.
The music is wildly different in this version. When they did the series, they brought in a different musical composer.
Hmm. When they remastered it, do they have the new composer do music for it, or
Yes.
that's it?
Yeah.
I do I do appreciate that in a way, just to have cohesiveness across your series. They should have sent a poet. Exactly, old media guy. It's full of stars. But hey, the doctor at least was able to stabilize him, though we still don't know what happened to him.
Right.
I honestly love how in '93 you look at the future tech, and it's things like, oh, you'll be able to take a phone with you anywhere on your wrist, and oh, you'll be able to do video communication stuff, and it's like we've achieved that. Now we just need to figure out the space travel. Like it's weird how we're both more technologically advanced than what they portray us as being in these shows, and at the same time less.
Oh, look at Star Trek in the 60s.
Yeah. Ah, it starts to come together.
Hmm.
So we're gonna investigate who could have done this, and we're gonna start with Mondale. He didn't meet him outside the docking bay like he was supposed to, and there's that strange guy who who seemed to be messing with Mondo.
The playback speed of this sounds a little fast. Just a fuzz fast.
Huh.
The voices sound a little higher pitched.
Let's see. It is. Let's see. It says it's an hour and 30 minutes long,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
but I
Thomas
wouldn't put
wants
it
to know
past me
when
to mess it
Darwin
up.
shows up. That could be Tokyo. SD playing on an HD medium.
Hmm. And this is a very SD.
Well, this is the only episode that only exists on videotape.
Oh.
Everything else they had on film. That's how they did the remaster for the series, was taking the original film and working with that. And that's why the series itself looks really good on Blu-ray.
So they just went over the medical data for the Vorlon, and his prognosis is terminal. That there's something in the guy's system, and it's going to take him out. Which lets you know that whoever did this knew enough about Vorlon physiology to have something that could poison him like this.
That's a good point.
And yes, it looks like poison, but I can't counteract it without knowing which poison. But we can't figure out how it got into his system. The guy's in a
Hmm.
suit. And so now we got a ticking timeline here. We have 24 hours to figure out what happened and save the Vorlon, or he's going to die. And John, I admit I don't know Babylon 5, but I'm pretty sure Darwin does not make an appearance in it.
I can confirm Darwin does not appear.
So one of the guys already on board. Londo's the guy who did it. They've been wanting to create a alliance with the Earth Alliance for years, so obviously he would use this as an opportunity. So he's saying, hey, maybe you and I should team up. We have unlimited manpower. We could do so much.
And the Mabari have high levels of technology.
So I'm curious if I were to stretch this to its breaking point and then push a little bit further, if I could assign some real world parallels to these people. Like, oh, this person seems like he's portraying maybe a Russian or German sort of nation, and uh, this lady
This is
maybe a Japanese, U.S. maybe. Oh, he just said you were one stroke away from complete victory, and then you retreated. Why? Oh, and she doesn't look happy.
Thomas. I only said what Jakar said.
Okay, she clearly doesn't like this great council, whatever it is. But this ring is able to. She said doom gravity. I want to say. So I want to say she said you were being held by doom gravity.
I
I,
didn't catch the word she used, but effectively she was crushing his chest with gravity. Now, this is something that was dropped in the series. We never see these rings again.
hmm. I mean, it does make her pretty overpowered.
Yeah. And I think that might be why they dropped it.
And yes, Thomas, she has a ring of power. She has all the ring of powers. I mean, it looked like she had one for every occasion. One gravity ring to rule them all. I said there is a there's an episode of the TV show Firefly. I think it's called Letters to Home or something like that, where they went through a station like this, and it had the same sort of vibe where you just had these three different major cultures that slammed together and became this one culture. And so you'd see this really strange mashup of clothing that you wouldn't expect to see usually. So Mr. Garibaldi is asking himself, but he's an ambassador. Oh, yep. He just brought it up. Londo said, I'm an ambassador. I get diplomatic immunity. So he's saying, I don't like the fact that you're asking me where I was when the ambassador came on board. Which he could just be honest. I was losing my money. I made a bad gamble. There we go. Now he's being honest. He's saying, yes, I was out of money, but a man named Del Varna promised to cover my bets.
Josh Treach, I think we would show the beginning sometime toward the end of season 4. That's about when it aired on TNT. It's way too early to show it now.
And the telepath's name is Lita.
Yes, Lita Alexander.
Wife.
Yes. Good catch.
You have a hangover? Sorry, if you weren't listening, you wouldn't have got. He asked, "Do you know why I am here?" And my assumption was he has a hangover. But he's saying it's because he's hoping to. His people are hoping to attach themselves to Earth's destiny. Thomas, did I miss it?
What's that?
Thomas said I had a donation popped up and I missed it.
I don't have the YouTube stream open. I just have the chat open, so I didn't see it.
I would miss it. Let's see. It's supposed to alert me on my stream, but would it surprise you that I have the audio set up wrong, Thomas?
It wouldn't surprise me. Josh Street, I wouldn't say too much more about that character.
Sauron donated $1. Thank you, Sauron. It says, she has my rings, son of a hobbit. Thomas, I'm surprised you're playing the correct show. Yeah, I almost didn't. Jeff had to save me.
Yeah, I was looking at my Discord at 12:30 in the morning and going, we're not watching the pilot? Did you notice Londo's teeth?
A little sharp?
Yeah, little fangs.
Let's see. Yeah, it's supposed to... It's so annoying that it didn't. I'll try and do better about paying attention, Thomas.
James Fry, that's something that comes much later in the series, and we're trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible. So if we could hold off onto that until we get to that point in the series.
Okay, so there's this lady's talking about her first posting right after the academy was Mars security right before the food shortage riots. But they wouldn't let her out of her contract. She was stuck there on Mars. And then it is Jeff Sinclair. Jeff Sinclair. There we go. So Jeff came and he said,
Didn't it?
"Fight within the rules. I'll get you a promotion." And so he saw that she had become jaded against the Babylon 5 Earth government, whatever they call themselves here, the Starfleet of Babylon 5. And so Jeff renewed her.
It's Earth Force.
The Earth Force. So
Yeah.
Jeff renewed her faith in the Earth Force, so to speak. But honestly, I want to now maybe it's that the actress isn't that old, but she doesn't look that old. Like I wouldn't think she had time to be posted anywhere post Academy and be stranded and become jaded.
Now, the actress that plays Lita is played by Patricia Tallman, and she was on Star Trek as well. She did a lot of stunt work for TNG. She also played security officer in TNG.
Really?
Yeah.
Like any actual name character or just kind of in the background?
No, just a background character.
Okay.
I think she may have had a few lines. But she did a lot of stunt work for the series too.
Okay, so they want her to go and do a Vulcan mind meld with him, so they can figure out
Essentially,
who did this to him, how he was poisoned, and she didn't want to do it. But they point out to her that if he dies, the Vorlons are going to respawn and they're going to lose. So we're all
she's not supposed to do it according to Psychor rules. No
yeah, but without
unauthorized
permission kind of
scans.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was something. That's something they had in an episode of TNG. No. It was Voyager. There's an episode of Voyager where they came on the ship and it was a big deal because you were never supposed to link to someone without permission. And I want to say they did it to B'Elanna with predictable results. And I want to say they also did it on Sequest.
Star Trek 6.
Well, I mean the plot of like, oh, a telepath never, without permission, reads someone's mind. And yeah, someone stopped during reviews. He really needs to get on the ball, Thomas. He's being lazy. Yeah, her face is, I think, the same face I'd make if I had to reach in someone's chest. Very, very much, I do not want to be doing this right now.
No, what I was talking about, Star Trek 6, Spock did a mind meld on Polaris, pretty much without her permission.
Oh, and thank you, Patrick, for the subscription. I appreciate that. It's Jeff. Jeff put a sticky patch on him and poisoned him.
Now, in the remaster, they made Kosh's hand glow.
Okay. And Mr. Lundell is saying that was a TNG episode where certain telepathic content was considered rape. Okay. Jeff, you killed him.
Killed whom?
Technically, he's not dead yet. He poisoned him. He's only mostly dead.
Almost dead?
Dun dun dun. Yeah, Omnicast. The fix is in. Never a great way to be first introduced to the commander of the station you're on. Accusing him of attempted murder.
It's not a good look, is it?
Kind of looks like a cockroach.
It does, doesn't it?
I feel like that's going to get some attention. This is why you never say hi to people you recognize out and about. Like if he hadn't been like, oh, hey, I remember you. If he had just played it cool, he wouldn't have gotten shot, body snatched. But hey, at least we are able to, we figured out the residue and we're able to get a counter agent going, so we probably won't all be killed by the Vorlons. Vorlons.
Orlons.
I'll get right someday.
You're catching on. Doing better than I thought you might.
Well, next week it's going to be back to zero, let's be honest.
The actor that played Del Varner here, he was also in Star Trek several times, as Thomas pointed out earlier. He's played by the actor John Fleck.
Should I know the actor on the screen? He seems familiar. Like Three's Company guy.
I was never a fan of that show.
Okay. We're finding out that Commander Sinclair is a very by the books man. And if the book says lock me in, throw me in jail, then he's gonna have himself thrown in jail for a little bit. I feel like they tried to do that with Janeway for a minute, and then decided that they'd rather have her be more sporadic. But when Voyager first started, she really tried, like, no, we're gonna do this the Starfleet way, no matter what.
What do you mean, Matthew? She was always Starfleet way.
No.
She always did it the Starfleet way.
By the time she
Janeway
got to the
did
Borg,
nothing
she
wrong.
ditched the Starfleet way and went with the Janeway. Thomas wants to know, can I guess the character he played on Enterprise? Which character?
I think he's talking about Del Varner.
Del Varner. He played on Enterprise?
uh, actors, John Fleck.
A guest role, right? We're not talking about one of the main characters.
No, not one of the main characters. That's right, Omnicast. Janeway did nothing wrong.
Ooh, the plot thickens.
Hmm.
So the Vorlon was poisoned with a drug called Florazine, which just so happens to come from the sector that the commander's girlfriend came from.
Now, I would not be surprised if you didn't recognize the character he played on Enterprise.
Tom's
There's a lot
saying
of
he was yellow. So
that's true.
a Suliban? Yeah, Thomas, I got nothing.
Jakar seems very scheming, doesn't he?
He's an ambassador. It comes with the territory. So Delvarno, he's got a lot of indictments against him. And he was subject to arrest the minute he set forth on Babylon 5, so why would he take the risk to be here? It makes no sense.
That's a good question.
It's Porthos. Ah, oh, Porthos. Of course, he wasn't yellow though, Thomas.
Thomas saying that he did play a Suliban, the main one.
Oh,
Whose name was Silic?
Sydney.
Silic? Silic?
Yeah, I think I've only watched through Enterprise twice. It wasn't my favorite series when it first aired because it was just so ridiculous that we'd have the sort of technology and the time frame they were saying we were in. But I actually started to like it a lot more when I went with, and I'm going to trigger Thomas here, when I went with Michael's triple timeline theory.
You just had to mention that, didn't you?
I did. Well, we're talking about the Suliban and Enterprise, and it. And Thomas saying there's no triple timeline. You're actually right. I think it's a lot more than triple by this point. And the Vorlon is really, or not. Excuse me, not the Vorlon. The rats.
Darn.
Yes, he's really pushing to have the captain extradited.
Yeah, why is he being so pushy about that?
The Earth Line says no. The tech people says abstain. Ooh, and Londo, he votes yes.
Which is surprising that he would vote with Jakar.
Oh, and Shikar, he went behind everyone's back. He talked to the Vorlons, and
Very
they
scheming.
he is, and he's saying we want Sinclair. Mr. Lundell is saying that the triple timeline theory was the most ridiculous thing he came up with. I disagree. I think it. I think it had a. I think it has some elements of truth to it. I think at the very least, Enterprise itself proves that it's in its own timeline when when it does the episode about the Borg that were killed by the Enterprise in the past to have Cochrane launch. But then Voyager says no, it was always part of the timeline for the Borg to be there. In fact, you could say that the Borg were fundamental to Cochrane's successful launch. And what could this strange gooey substance on the ground be? Oh, water. It was water. It was Delvano. How could it be Delvano? We've seen him walking around.
Hmm.
Curious. Is this Dr. Mbenga? I don't think so.
His name is Kyle, Dr. Kyle. Ben Kyle. Minor spoiler, he does not appear after this pilot episode.
Hmm. Toga is saying, there's a fourth pesky one, right? I think we're talking timelines. Apparently, Akiva Goldsman took the yellow timeline into account when he wrecked all the 50 years of Trek canon.
I think we can skip that line of discussion.
And Sinclair's continuing to show that he has complete faith in the system. He's saying, I chose you, Mike, because, I knew you'd do what had to be done, and you wouldn't mess with all this politicking nonsense. So just do your job and find who actually did it. And Lita is meeting with Jakar?
Jakar.
Curious and curiouser. We got some opera in the background. It's not Klingon opera, so it's not that great, but And Mike's not listening. Londo's giving him valuable information here. And Londo's explaining that that Shakar came and said, you vote the way I want to, or else I'm gonna release some dirt on you. And on his homeworld, like, family is everything. You mess with his lineage and he has nothing.
Mr. Londell is saying that Londo looks Napoleonic.
Okay. And Londo has explained that he miscalculated. He thought that they'd be in a deadlock. He'd vote yes with Shakar, and it'd be 2 votes for, 2 against. It'd be a deadlock. Nothing would happen. So he has nothing to lose by voting yes and everything to gain. But he's sorry, so that makes it better. Well, that's all right then. I was saying they're somewhat French, except they don't surrender all the time. Yolando's people, I could see them making that parallel. We're finding out that he was a part of the biggest battle in Earth's history, and he never told his girlfriend or spouse, love interest. We'll say with love interest for now. They haven't really given us more than that.
Love, love interest is a good term.
And he's explaining the Mbari had broken through, and they were ordered to stop them no matter what, to defend the Earth. And he was saying the sky was full of stars, but the stars were exploding ships, Earth ships. So he figures he's about to die. He says, if I'm going to die, I'm going to at least take one of them with me. So he hits one of their cruisers dead on. The ship filled his screen, and then his life passed before his eyes, and he blacked out from the acceleration. Somehow, he didn't die. Instead, he came to 24 hours later. He checked in and the war was over. I'll forget it in a minute. I might.
I'll remind you.
Okay, and this is what Chakar was asking the lady about. Why did they stop? They had beaten Earth. They were a moment away from victory, and they walked away. And Sinclair's asking the same question. We were beaten. We didn't stop them. They stopped themselves.
They were going to be wiped out.
Oh, look out, Kyle. Look out, Kyle. So Kyle's starting to put some things together. That you saw Delvano well after he was dead. It doesn't make any sense. And here we got some girl boss. See? No problem with girl boss as long as you write them right. We got two girl bosses even.
And they look alike.
He's a ghost. Someone lit a candle, Thomas. Yeah, Omni's lead is a little snippy in this episode.
Well, one of them anyway.
Very strange. I think I might know another DS9 common plot point, perhaps.
Oh.
It seems like we may have some shape shifting going on. At the very least, I think we're gonna have some genetic shenanigans.
Time will tell, Matthew. It always does.
It does. I mean, it's either shape shifting or it's it wouldn't be DS9, but the new Trek where Spock had the genetic modification and his ears suddenly popped back out.
Do we have to mention that?
Oh, yes, we do. So many timelines. So now we have it. They found another dead body. He's been dead at least 16 hours. This would have been the guy, I'm assuming, that recognized Delvar. And
Yep.
you know, it's weird. He's been dead for 16 hours, but his maintenance shift teams have seen him since then. And so they're saying it's the last tech running he did was a camouflage net.
Changeling. That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It does. A changeling grid, though. So
Yeah.
in this one, they're not a species. It's a technology called the changeling grid, and prolonged exposure to it is, I think they said, lethal. Or bad for the genetics. But what would Delvar want? No, it wasn't Delvar. It was someone else.
Somebody that was imitating him.
Yeah. So, one thing I am surprised by is I guess those are just unmanned drones. But you would think if one of them blew up, it would alert security or something.
You would think so.
Perhaps they'll
Like
address
there's
that
somebody
now
on
become
the
a
ins-
non-issue.
Like somebody on the inside was helping.
And the Vorlons, they've come in bulk. They're not going to take no for an answer when it comes to picking up the commander. You're popular, Jeff.
Now, these guns are interesting. We only see these guns in the pilot.
That is priceless.
Worf is saying none of this would happen on the would have happened on the Enterprise.
Give us a thumbs up, LD. Let us know you're okay.
Yeah, you're okay.
I love that clip so much.
Yes.
And we were actually just talking about that today because John DeMarco, who does these amazing compilations of things that happen in Star Trek, he did references in DS9 to Enterprise. And one of the ones was Worf complaining about the security things would never happen on Enterprise. And Odo knew this conversation was coming. He just had a pad ready to go. Like, oh, well, what about this? And there's a time traveler from the past, apparently, who had you completely fooled. Thank you, Jeff.
I believe you're right, Josh Street. This is the last time we see those jackets. I just put a link in for John DeMarco's channel in the YouTube chat.
Appreciate that.
One of the background characters here in Command and Control, he plays a different character later in the series. So you may want to watch for him.
I like the foop noise it makes. Like a potato being launched out of a potato gun.
Oh, that's a good description.
Now, personally, I think I would have stayed as Lita because I think it would be hard for a guy like Sinclair to punch a lady. Like, I think there would be some subconscious holding back. But maybe they didn't want to do a fight scene where Sinclair wailed on a redhead lady. Yeah, see, look, he hesitated. A Nabari. I mean, it makes sense with the technology level. Also, you're supposed to have high energy access panels like that covered, so this exact thing doesn't happen. He just said there's a hole in your mind, which I'm assuming will come up at some point.
It's a distinct possibility.
I mean, it's certainly possible that that's one of the things where they go, you know what, we're not going to go this way with the series. It's just a pilot. But that to me sounds like an extremely important line that's going to come up.
Well, you may have noticed I said that to Thomas, that I had a hole forming in my mind
Oh, you
earlier.
did. Caused by book radiation. I don't think that's how books work, Thomas. I mean,
Poor Thomas. He's being brainwashed by the Cinnabon bunny.
if a book was in Chernobyl, I guess it could become irradiated and cause book radiation. But then it's not really book radiation. It's a irradiated book.
Logical.
You said that earlier, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
I think someone made the coffee, two sugars, cream, and an aspirin comment in the chat like way before the stream happened.
Okay, I missed that. Thomas, I think Omni is humoring you.
So we got a kind of Cassidy Yates character here. I wouldn't say that Cassidy Yates is a ripoff of this character, but they're the same sort of independent woman. She has her career out in space. She has her own ship, transport, presumably.
Yeah, there's some similarities here.
But that's just something you need to do no matter what. If you have a character that is in charge of a space station and you want a love interest for him, you tend not to select from the cast. Like you're going to have a special guest star. And that's going to lend itself toward like a transport ship captain. She comes in, she goes out, never there for long.
Mr. Londell is correct. We don't see that character again.
But we do on Deep Space Nine? Who? Does she look like herself? Sinclair is being pretty magnanimous, saying she can't be held responsible for everything her race does.
Well, he's in charge of the space station where they have all these different ambassadors, and their mission is to create peace in the galaxy. So, yeah, I think he would try to be that way.
I personally might have a little bit of a grudge. Like,
Josh Street. I'm sorry. I I think it's a different character.
And very different toasts. Sinclair says to a fully operational Babylon 5, and Chikara says to the future. Ah, there we go. So I was confused because they did mention Delvarn being the tech runner, but then there's a different person who had the changeling field. So he was just smuggling in the changeling field.
Yes.
And the commander lays out exactly how it all happened. The missed rendezvous in space. They had to kill him on Babylon 5, but Shakar says, share speculation. Of course, we know he's right, but share speculation. And yes, Omni, this is a Columbo-like ending. Oh, one more thing. And Sinclair is saying he just put some nano something in the tea. He's saying it should dissolve in about 5 years, uh, but until then, if anything happens to Babylon 5, they have instructions to track down the tracker and kill him. And yeah, you can scheme and plan and play all the games you want, but when you put the station in danger, that's the line. And Mike says beep beep as he walks by him, because he knows exactly what's going on. Ha! It was all a lie. There is no transmitter. He says he figured if he actually put in a transmitter, someday they'd find it and remove it. But if he just said there was, then they'd waste time looking for something that wasn't there.
Josh Street, the characters are similar. I'll agree with you there.
So everyone, please welcome the final representative, Ambassador Kosh of the Vorlon Empire. What an interesting environment for them. Okay, so this is an old Anbari insult, the hole in the mind. But it's definitely something that that disturbed her. And he's saying you're saying it's an insult, but there's a 24-hour period of my life that I have no records of. Are you sure you're not holding anything out on me? She goes, of course not. He goes, well, we're going to talk about this again one of these days. And she's saying, why Babylon 5? If the first 4 stations were destroyed or lost, why build another? And he says, well, I guess it's stubbornness. If something's an earth trait, if something's destroyed, we rebuild it again and again and again. Of course, they're talking about poetry, and the only poetry she knows is there once was a man from Nantucket. And so, Babylon 5 is open for business. Our docking bays stand open ready to receive you. No, not Takashima is open for business. Babylon 5 is open for business.
Oh, wow. I can't believe you said that, Omni.
I told you saying the music is miserable. I'm enjoying it, but maybe it's because I don't know what the actual music is going to be.
It's a much different style of music.
Like if I were to close my eyes, I would think
Right.
late 80s cop procedural show.
It does have that feel to it, doesn't it?
Well, Jeff, I thought this was a very fun opening into the season here. What's your take on? Uh-oh. I may have
You're
just
frozen.
lost. I everything just froze up there for a second.
Oh, you're moving again.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're back.
Hey. I guess I'm not allowed to. I guess I'm not allowed to do something. That was weird. But hey, that was like the tamest of technical issues for one of my streams, so not bad.
I was just going to say, for 2 years of not doing this, I thought it went fairly smoothly.
It did. It really
I mean,
did.
you had an audio glitch at the beginning, but
Yeah,
so did I. So you know.
Yeah, so Jeff and I we're trying to get StreamYard work, or I'm trying to get StreamYard working, and I can't hear Jeff at all. Jeff can't hear me. I'm selecting the wrong audio channel for my microphone, and finally goes, oh, Jeff's like, I was muted. It's fine. So I was glad that it wasn't my fault, but then I turned around and immediately did something that was my fault. But no, so for a first entry into a series, without giving any spoilers, how do you feel like the characters as their representative hold up by the end of the series? Like, do they become completely unrecognizable by the end without character progression? Because there's a lot of time in sci-fi shows where you're introduced to someone, and by the end of the series, they're unrecognizable, and it makes no sense how they got there.
These characters, I think they do hold up in this, from this pilot all the way through the end of season 5, but they're extremely well written. So there is a natural progression for every one of these characters. Every one of these characters has a major role in the series. It's not like they're a minor background character at all. Each of them have a part in the main storyline that's important. And there is progression. They do change, but it's a natural change.
Yeah, and that's fine, because if you're gonna have a serial, which clearly Babylon 5, it's going for the serial vibe. This isn't just going to be 100% episodic. It's going to have an overarching storyline.
It does.
So you need to let your characters grow within that story and go where that story takes them. But there's a big difference between like Picard got assimilated by the Borg, and so you see him breaking down in the episode Brothers, where it's just like he had guilt that he couldn't fight them. So it made sense that he got there. But then other times you're just like, oh, for this episode, I need this character to be a master chess player. And it's like, where did this come from? And so for the rest of the TV series, he's this master chess player. And like, it makes no sense how you got there. I'm trying to think of it.
That seems,
does that.
Well, modern Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah.
Discovery's good at that. Suddenly a character has this ability you didn't know about, or talent you didn't know about.
Yeah, and it's the sort of talent where it's really fundamental to who their character would have been with this talent. Like it's not like, oh yeah, you got this Matthew guy and he rides bikes. It's like, oh, well, okay, that's nice. But it's like, no, you have this Matthew guy, and it turns out he is a very devout Christian who spends his free time preaching. And it would be like, I'm sorry, and this has never come up in the series before? How has this not come up in the series before?
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't think you see this in Babylon 5. These characters are well-founded at the beginning, and they naturally progress throughout the series, and they all do change to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see what you think of these changes.
Well, like I said, I think they've done a strong first entry here. I mean,
it was a little clunky. It's more of a whodunit type thing that they were trying to solve, and you don't get that a lot in this series. So this style of story, you don't see a lot later on.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a bit clunky. It had a lot to set up. I think that was its main problem. You had a brand new series, brand new characters, brand new species, brand new universe that you're trying to establish. You got 5 main races that you're trying to set up, and how they interact with each other, and they're trying to set up these storylines, the recent past, and it's a lot of exposition. So
yeah.
There's a lot to set up, and it takes a bit for it to get going.
It definitely would have been interesting if they could have spread some of this out over several episodes. Like, just spitballing. Like, if you had an episode devoted to each race as they came on the station, or maybe 2 races at a time, so that by the 3rd episode, now we get to the whodunit. So we have a little bit more idea of who the Imbari are, and who Londo's race are, and who Shikar's race is. And then we get this culmination of, hey, here's the last ambassador coming, and oh wow, there's this murder going on. And then you also could have developed a little bit more so that you do wonder if Sinclair did it, instead of it this obvious, like, okay, we know Sinclair is not going to be the guilty party.
Yeah.
But I see why they did this way. It was just a pilot.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to mention. They were sold this pilot, make this pilot, and then we'll see about a series. So they had a lot to set up and explain in this pilot episode.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they had been sold a 22 episode season, these are 22 episode seasons from the get-go, maybe they could have done that.
Yeah. In terms of saying I want it to be like Discovery, how would that be like Discovery? 5 episodes of Discovery was the whole season almost.
Tokyo says the problem with B5 versus New Trek is the ownership of the IP. JMS is pushing an agenda. We see that in the animation. New Trek, however,
but JMS isn't pushing an agenda.
It isn't. Yes, isn't. Thank you. And JMS is J. Michael Straczynski, the show creator.
Oh.
And he's well known in the genre. He did a lot of the new Ghostbusters. I'm sorry, the real Ghostbusters animation TV show.
The cartoon,
The
Slimer?
cartoon. Yeah. He did a lot of those stories. I forget what else he's done. He's done a lot of stuff. Thomas says B5 wouldn't be episodic then. Well, a lot of B5 isn't episodic.
Thomas, it's interesting you make that comment because I feel like this is something we talked about in Discord maybe a while back ago. How at like TNG time, people were scared of a serial series. They said, well, we can't do serials because no one's going to, like, we can't count on people to tune in week after week after week. And then DS9 really started to push against that with their Dominion War stuff, where it wasn't just oh, hey, there's a plot point here and there's a plot point there, and now we kind of come together at the end. Where they actually did like a week after week ongoing storyline, like especially when they had to flee from DS9, and then later on they came and took it back. But we had that entire story arc with them on the Defiant until they got back to the DS9, and you know Jake is on board trying to be a reporter and he can't because they keep censoring him. But so that's like when they really started to push that trend, and now we have where everything's serial and an episode can't stand on its own. And I think one of the great things that shows like Farscape did, and what I'm guessing Babylon 5 does, is they find this interesting balance between episodic and serial, where mini episodes can be standalone, but even as they're standalone episodes, you can see the way they fit in with the larger picture and they build up toward that final progression point.
Josh Street is asking, isn't it takes a season or two before a pilot from a throwaway episode season one doesn't come back? I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
I think it got auto-corrected there somewhere.
Maybe.
Like maybe doesn't it take a season or two after a pilot?
Season one does have quite a few standalone episodic episodes. Although there are many aspects in each episode, even if it's an episodic one, that do eventually tie back into the main storyline.
Mm-hmm.
John DeMarco says, I think DS9 hit the right balance between episodic and serialized. These days, many shows are too serialized, in my opinion. Well, you know, Babylon 5 kind of started all this. I mean, this was 1993 when this show started. And while the first season did have quite a number of episodic episodes, there were, again, like I was saying, elements that do tie back into the 5-season arc.
Mm-hmm.
Once you hit season 2, you really start hitting a lot of these arc episodes, and you'd get an occasional episodic episode thrown in. Season 4 was pretty much just all arc episodes. And not trying to spoil anything, but that's just the way it was made.
Yeah.
And there were a couple reasons why they did that, and maybe we'll get into that later.
I want to say Earth Final Conflict came out around this time also.
I think that was a few years later, maybe 96, 7.
Okay. But I know they struck that balance too, where there are a lot of standalone episodes, but then there was an overarching storyline that was more serialized.
97 Earth Final Conflict came out.
Wow. I'm honestly shocked. I didn't think it was that late.
So this pilot episode was February of 1993. The first episode of season 1 was January of 94. So there was an 11-month gap between the two. And they took that time to smooth some of the rough edges out. and I
Okay.
hope you'll see that next week.
Yeah. I plan on being here.
Now, four of the characters that we see in this pilot episode will not be in the series proper, at least when it starts up again. The Doctor is not there, Lita Alexander is not there, and
Oh,
Takashima is not there, as well as Sinclair's lover.
okay. Now, for Kyle and Lita, do they get replacement characters? Like, here's the new Doctor, here's the new telepath.
Yes,
Okay. Which
as well as Takashima,
okay. I mean, it's a
the
year thing. I
commander.
get it. You know.
Yeah, the actors they found work elsewhere, basically.
Hmm. It would be a really hard thing to sit around for. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be the full year. You start production at some point in there, uh, but to be like, here's a pilot. Now just everyone wait and see if this
Right.
gets picked up. It's like, oh, that's nice,
Uh,
but no.
Josh Street says that they did change the makeup and costumes as well. They did. There were a few other elements that they changed as well, which you'll see. They changed Delenn's personality slightly, I think. Um, they when they made the Delenn character, Ambassador Delenn, originally she was going to be played by a man, and they were going to electronically give him a woman's voice, and it didn't sound right. So they just made it a female character.
Were they trying to go for this a race of androgynous people?
Yeah, I think more of that. Now, this is more of an ancient culture, so
Okay. I
this
mean,
race has been around a long, long time. Spacefaring race for over 1,000 years.
it's interesting. Trek did that also with the more ancient you get, the more androgenized you become.
Yeah.
And Thomas, remember, please no spoilers. Now I know Sinclair becomes gay at the end of it. I wanted to go in to this with just no spoilers, but just try and keep it to the minimal, okay? And Dylan looks horrible in the gathering. They definitely, like, I could tell they were definitely trying to give her a very mannish jawline.
Yeah.
But it's a pilot. Like I totally understand. And think about the cage. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
that was such a wildly different pilot episode from where Star Trek went.
Well,
That
just look at Spock.
yeah.
He's quite a bit different in the cage.
I mean, not just in terms of we have a different captain, we have a different first officer, um, but just the entire tone of the series was very changed after the cage. And that's why I was saying, like, there's so much where who you are in the pilot isn't anywhere where you end up being. And so it's really interesting to see someone who has such a clear idea of where they'd like to go, that the number of tweaks they need to make from the pilot into a show you can do 26 episodes a year is minimal changes. Like, that's impressive.
Well, like I said, the story was all mapped out. The characters were mapped out. And what's interesting is, and I think I touched on this earlier, there were escape clauses for every single character in case an actor had to leave the series for
Mm-hmm.
some reason. I mentioned that every character's storyline was mapped out. There was an escape clause where they could leave the series without having to replace the actor playing the role. They had the character leave and not the actor. Well, they both left, but
Yeah, still.
yeah,
Well, very cool. It is 11:30. So I think I'm going
it
to
is.
call it a night and get some sleep, guys. But Jeff,
This has been fun, Matthew.
it really has, and I just want to thank you so much. I sprung this on Jeff a week ago of, hey, would you be interested in this? And your willingness to come and do it, even though I've completely been silent for 2 years, I appreciate you jumping on board and getting this going right away. And because I've been looking forward to this for a solid week now. And
I've been waiting for it for 2 years.
Well, yeah,
so.
okay, yes. Yeah, quitter. I know, Thomas. Hopefully I can keep this on pace, and I appreciate y'all hanging out with us. And hopefully next week we'll be at it again, and I will be just a little bit more polished in how we do this, and we'll have a great time.
I'm sure we will. Thank you, Matthew, for doing this.
You got it. We'll see you later.
It's been a blast. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, and be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.